All right. Can everybody see me? Can everybody hear me? Give me a yell over there in the chat room if we are live right now. All right. If when I'm waiting on that, welcome to Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot. And we're going to try to get this show started here in just a few minutes. But right now, I'm going to say hello to Stephen Hicks, Mr. Henry. Let's see here, Thomas. Hey, Thomas Wynn, how are you doing, bud? And let's see here, James the Grower 2.0. Oh, Miss Renee Gayhart. I'm glad to see you're on here tonight, sweetheart. And let's see, Danny Buckner. How are you doing, bud? Yep. Okay, we are live. Good deal. All right, let's get this show going, guys. Like I said, we're on No Bears Den of Bigfoot tonight, and we got a special show that been wanting to do for a while, and we're going to have some people come on and ask questions. I will not be allowed to ask questions, as it states there below me. It says I am moderator, and we've got some people that wants to ask. By the way, good evening to you, Mr. Athos. And let's see who else is on here. I know somebody else popped on that I couldn't see. May have already rolled up. No, I've got that one. Got that one. But anyways, Paul Fun, he's on here. How you doing, bud? And anyways, let's get started while we can. Well, first person we're going to bring up tonight, we've got us a good panel tonight. Oh, Prospecting USA. There you are. Good to see you. First person we're going to bring on tonight is Miss Natalie. Miss Natalie, would you come on in?
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good, good, good seeing you. You doing all right tonight?
I'm doing great. Staying warm inside. Snow's coming down.
Ooh, you must live in Ohio.
Nope.
No? Where do you live?
Nope.
Iowa?
No, I'm in the mountains of Western Maryland.
Okay, okay. There we go. All right. Our next guest that we're going to bring on tonight is Miss Ice Bunny. Miss Ice Bunny, come on in.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
For those that might be interested in knowing, that's my wife, the beautiful, lovely, talented.
I don't know
so,
about that one.
so how are you doing tonight? Might as well ask.
I'm doing great. I'm just a
Okay.
little bit ill.
All right. Our next panel tonight is Mr. Doug. Come on in, sir.
Howdy ho.
Hey, bud. How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing great. Doing great. I'm just excited about getting this show and see what kind of questions you guys are going to have for the man. And we'll go ahead and bring him on right now, and that be Mr. Old Bear himself. Come on in here, Old Bear.
Hello, everybody.
Evening. How is he?
Well, I'm falling out from this weather.
By the way, he's got his lovely wife right next to him, and today is her birthday. Everybody wish her a happy birthday.
Birthday.
Thank
Yep.
you.
I think she said she's still 26 years old.
Sure.
No,
she
I
is.
think it was 21. 31, actually. 31.
31.
31.
Wait,
Okay, we'll go with that.
that's not what I
That
heard.
makes you the same age, Ice Bunny, right? What was that? It makes you about the same age as me, 31, right? Yeah, I'm right there with you. Thank you, Leonard, for the happy birthday.
Renee,
And Renee, thank
Danny
you.
Buckner,
Thank you, Danny Buckner. Thank you, Stephen Hicks.
Thomas.
And Thomas, hi. Thank you. 21, yeah.
21.
That's
Women
been
don't lie about their age. No. All right. All right. Guys, over in the chat room, by the way, when we get these questions going, and if you want to have a question answered, also type it in for me and put it in all caps if you don't mind. So I know you're asking him a question, and when we get a chance, we'll break in and ask that question if anyone happens to want to ask one. Okay. All right. You guys ready to get started? All
Yes,
right.
sir.
All right. We'll start off over here with Miss Natalie. Miss Natalie, what's your first question for the bear?
I want to know, what do you think makes a good investigator?
Ooh.
Well, a good investigator is someone that questions everything when it comes to these creatures. Someone that everything is not Bigfoot. You have to have the mindset. You have to be open-minded about it. You have to be willing to get your hands dirty, and you have to have the mindset of, can I debunk this as it not being a Bigfoot? You always try to do that. That answer your question, Evan?
It does. It does. That's
Okay.
how I feel.
Anybody you want to expand on it, Natalie, or are you good with that?
Yeah, it's just it gets old going out with people where every noise in the night is, if it's not Bigfoot, it's some other cryptid. And it's a fox, it's a coyote.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think a lot of investigators need to get more familiar with what noises are in the woods at night.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good point.
And different times of the year, there's different creatures that are actually out. Early in the year, there's not so many birds. There's hardly any birds at night. You still got owls, stuff like that are night birds. But a lot of people they will mistake a fox scream for a Bigfoot, and I've had a few people do that, and that is kind of okay.
Well, they make some weird noises.
Yes, they do.
Okay. All right. Ice Bunny, you want to expand?
No, I'm good.
Okay. How about you, Doug?
Let me ask you a question. This is actually me and another co-driver. We have talked about this before, and he actually brought it up. And I've tried to talk to him a little bit about it. I've never seen a Bigfoot. Talking about investigators, a print. When he always wanted to know why an investigator would only show one footprint instead of showing multiple. What can I, as far as going along with the investigators, is there any way that we could get more multiple prints or footprints or whatever to satisfy some of these negative folks talking to us about investigators itself instead of just taking one? I know, like, I've seen a Bob Gimlin film before, or a thing, and he showed multiple. But for these folks that are very, how can I say it, negative on this subject, always trying to pick at everybody, how can we get folks, when they do investigations, to show more than just one print? What could we do about that as far as getting that going, so they won't be picked at so much?
Well, a lot of times when it comes to these creatures, they know we look for them. They're not stupid, and they will pick where they put their foot down. Now, if they're in a running situation, yeah, you're going to have a line of tracks. If they're chasing something, if they're being chased, sometimes you get little ones that'll walk down a muddy road and just have their prints everywhere. And the way that you can get, it depends on the Bigfoot and what it was doing. Whether you get one print or you might get two, and you might get one print where it steps out in the middle of the road, and then the next print's off to the side and it steps on a rock. So a lot of times when people are out getting prints and they find tracks of these creatures, they find one, and they get so excited about finding one footprint, they forget to look for the other ones.
Yeah, I can see
if
that.
they do look, the other print may not be as good as what the first one they found is. and they don't want to waste the plaster or the casting material they're using. And a lot of times that's what happens.
That makes sense. All right. Well, I appreciate that. So I can, when I have a conversation with him again about it, I can definitely use that to help him out. How's that?
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And
How
I'm not.
often, Doug, do you see more than one bear track?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been a while since I've been in the woods. I've never seen, to be honest with you, I have never seen a Bigfoot print. And of course, you know me, I went hunting one time and I hadn't seen any, but where I'm located at, the ground's pretty hard around here, so it'd be hard for you even. And I don't know how to track, so you know, y'all do, and so I just think I just needed something to talk to him about when he comes at me with that, because you know I believe Tommy. Tommy has no right to lie to me about anything, so I believe Tommy, or I should excuse me, Icebox. So you know, and then he'll come with stuff like that towards me, and I'm like, I don't know what to say. If y'all understand what I'm meaning.
Mm-hmm. I'm not allowed to chat room. I'm not allowed to respond, so I have to be quiet. All right, we'll go to the next question. But before we do, we've had some folks in the chat room, and I didn't write your names down, so I'm sorry, but I will repeat your question. Barrett, anybody in the chat or in the panel, does anyone cast any tracks? And what's your favorite place to research and investigate? We'll start off with Odor.
Well, I kind of gave up on casting prints probably 20 plus years now. I haven't casted a print. And the reason was everybody would look at them and some of the prints that I casted, they had deformed toes. They had a break, you know, they broke their foot or something happened to them, and it didn't look like a typical Bigfoot print. So people kind of gave me a rough time about the prints that I had casted. And when they did, not many people know this, but I have a temper sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's looking at me funny if you can't tell.
I'm not
But
saying that.
yeah, Icebox, hopefully not. But anyway, when I like to go bigfooting, I like to go here in my home state of West Virginia. I know areas where they tend to hang out. They're not always in them because they move around a little bit. They don't stay in one area the whole time. They may move 10, 12 miles away because the deer population or their food or water or, you know, somewhere where they can hole up like right now. You go outside and there's still snow on here. There's a bunch of snow on, and they don't move around a lot. And it's really hard to try to cast a print in the snow unless it freezes. And then if it freezes, then you put the plaster Paris in there or whatever material you want to use. Then it heats up and it deforms the track. So this time of year, it's really kind of hard to get tracks simply because they don't move around. They're like us. They don't want to freeze. They don't want to be cold. And they'll stay where it's warm for them. But I love bigfooting here in my home state of West Virginia. And I love going to Ohio. I love going up there at Salt Fork in Ohio. And the reason I like going up there is because usually when I go up there, there's, you know, we're having a camp out, you know, and the people you see here on this screen and a bunch of others are there. And I have fun being around friends. You know, they're more family than they are friends. So, you know, I love my home state, but when it comes to going to any other state, I pick Ohio because my extended family's there.
Okay. All right. Anybody else ever make tracks, or do you want to divulge your favorite place to research or investigate? Nope. All right. I can't respond. Sorry, chat room, but I could, but I can't. All right. We'll move on to our next question, and we'll stay with the ladies. Miss Ice Bunny, what's your question?
Well, he answered one of mine already. Let me think which one I want to ask him. Okay, I have one. When people usually see one, are they usually curious? Are they more scared? Do they want to know? Do they freeze? Do they run?
Well, from the multiple accounts that I've taken over the years, most people are fascinated, I would say. They're like, oh my God, that thing's not supposed to be here. It's not supposed to be, it's not real. And their first reaction is that. And then while they're watching it, their brain is trying to process a creature that, according to most of America, is not supposed to be here. And it causes them to, sometimes their brain will shut down. They'll lose track of the Bigfoot because their brain shuts down on them. Some people may run. It's a full gambit of emotions that people go through when they see one of these creatures. And a lot of times people get, after they see one, they're freaked out. They're scared to death, and they'll never go back out in the woods again.
Okay. You want to expand? No?
That was one of my questions. If they want to go back out again, if they see one. I've not personally seen one yet, but I still want to see one. I don't know how I'll react when I see one, but
All I
you
can
don't
say,
act like
let me say this, Icebox, before you go there. If you see one this spring, just do me a favor. Don't pull the rest of Icebox's hair out on top of his head when you jump on his shoulder.
I'm not gonna climb. I already told him I'm going to climb him like a tree. I already told him. Yeah.
that's all right. If that branch breaks, don't say nothing to me. All right. All right. Natalie, do you want to expand on that question?
No, I would imagine. I mean, I've not seen one either. Have been close, but did not see it. I think it depends on how close you are when you see it. I think there's a big difference in your reaction if you come around the bend in a trail and you're 20 feet away, as opposed to, a couple hundred yards.
Oh, yeah. All right. Doug?
Well, I can expand a little bit. I've never seen one myself, but where my location is, I talked to Icebox about it. I did hear a whoop call one night, and from somebody that's 6'2", 250, kind of froze in my track. And I was never thought I would do that, but it was just like, what was that first? So I could only imagine seeing one, what my reaction would be. I'd freeze up. Speaking of that, why somebody does see one, I've heard of the smell that some of them release a smell or something like that to them. When somebody sees one like that, is that a reaction a Sasquatch would give if they're trying to warn somebody, or are they scared or something like that? Do they usually put off a smell? I think.
Well, I can tell you, Doug, from 38 sightings, there's only been 2 times that I've ever smelt one. And both times that I smelt one, I was probably within 20 to 30 feet of it and didn't know it. Just happened to walk up on it and it be laying, hiding or standing there behind a tree or behind a boulder or something. And then all of a sudden get a really strong, disgusting, rotten meat, skunk smell. Combine that with something that's been out in the sun for about 7 days and about 90-degree weather, and then that's the smell that it smells like.
Oh man.
But a lot of times they don't emit an odor unless you get too close. It's like a defense mechanism they use.
Okay. Appreciate that.
All right.
Mhm.
Anybody else want to expand? All right. Doug, I believe it's your turn to ask a question. Go ahead.
Okay. Going back to the previous question that was asked about investigators, what makes a good investigator? Now, y'all have ran into an issue the last time I think y'all went camping out. How can we get everybody, even with separate or different opinions, how can we get the Bigfoot community to get together and work as a team instead of bite backing each other on this and trying to be the first one? I've got to be it. How can we get it? Because there's an individual down here in Alabama that I try to get Icebox to interview before, and he pretty much blew him off. And I've heard some other research about this individual, and I don't understand why folks can't work together on this. So what can we do to get this to everybody get on the same page?
Well, the biggest issue everybody looks at this like, I want to be the one to solve the equation of Bigfoot. And it's not going to take one person. It's going to take everybody in the community coming together, bringing the stuff that they find, whether it's tree bows, tree structures, trees turned upside down on the ground, footprints, DNA, scat, whatever. Everybody needs to come together and get out of that mindset of it's about me. And
Right.
it's not. It's about a creature that lives in the forests or even the deserts in the United States. They live across every state. And people they want that name. They want the name of, I proved Bigfoot. They want that title. And that title won't ever go to one person. I mean, there's big names out there like, Moneymaker and Cliff Berkman and there's a bunch of names out there. And I'm sorry, you can go out. These people have got, tons of money. They get sponsors for this stuff. And they go out and they don't get anything anymore than what anyone else does. Any other investigator, a first-time investigator gets as much as finding Bigfoot found. And the thing of it is you ain't going to get that title. Now, if everybody comes together and puts aside their squabbling little differences and their issues with this person or that person, Bigfoot would be proven by now. And that's a fact. Because there's way too much evidence and it's not circumstantial. Footprints are not circumstantial. That's physical evidence. Hairs, that's not circumstantial evidence. That's physical evidence. The evidence that we have across the Bigfoot community right now could convict someone if it was evidence for a murder. And that's the biggest issue. Everybody has that. They let their ego get in front of them. And I did for a time. That's the reason I stayed hidden for so long. It's because I was like, well, I'll just prove it. I'll just prove this thing. It's all about what I'm going to show everybody. And I learned over the years, it's not about me. It's about this creature. And that's the biggest issue everybody in the Bigfoot world has got. They want to be the one that proves Bigfoot. And there's only one way to prove it to science, and I don't want to go there. I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And those scientists can go jump off a very tall, short pier and take the proverbial long walk down that short pier. So, I mean, that's the biggest issue in the Bigfoot community right now. Everybody's ego.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anybody want to expand on that one?
I don't want them to be proven.
You want
If
it to
you
be a
want to
mystery?
know, I want you to find that proof, but I'm afraid to think of what would happen if they became known, accepted as being
Yeah.
real by mainstream. I hate thinking of what would happen to them. So I would rather the mystery.
Yeah. The mystery is fun. It really is.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't mind
Yeah.
people looking at me like I've got 3 heads when I say I go out looking for Bigfoot. I would rather they remain so-called undiscovered.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right. Then I'm going to take this opportunity to tell the chat room again, if you have any questions, please put it in caps and we'll get to them as soon as we can. All right, Miss Natalie, it is your turn again.
Kind of change of subjects. And Bear, I think this is where you've got some experience. For someone who might be having activity around their home, unwanted activity, have you ever tried? I've heard that sulfur will help deter them from coming around. What do you know about that?
Well, sulfur has a bad smell to it, and they have the sense of smell that we do, probably a lot better than we do, because of all the smells that humans smell every day: diesel, gas, oil, trash, garbage, so on and so forth. So our sense of smell is really terrible. And Bigfoot lives in a natural world. It lives out there in the woods. And when it comes to sulfur, sulfur has a very bad smell. They don't like it. But I've never used it to deter a Bigfoot, to get them to understand that, the people own the house or own the property don't want them there. I've never used it. But I have spoken to others that have used it in other parts of the country, and it's worked for them. And I have no problem with whatever works. The only thing I can tell you is I've never used it. I've never came to an instance where I needed to use it.
Yeah, I would think that the lights and the cameras would typically be enough.
It works. Probably lights and just putting up a game cam. Don't have to have batteries in it. Don't have to have a card in it. They see it. They know it's there. They know what they are. They see them out in the woods all the time. All these deer hunters and bear hunters and cat hunters and whatever kind of hunter there is. Go out and put cameras up to watch and see where what type of game are going past a certain place or whatever. They know what they are. They're not stupid. 90, I'm not 90. I'd say probably 75 to 80% of the time, lights and game cams deters most Bigfoot.
Okay. Anybody want to expand? All right. We will, while we're on this subject right here, I want to go ahead and get this question out to you, Bear. Is the BFRO legit or TV fakery?
Well, I know my friend was a member of that at one time, but my personal opinion when it comes to BFRO is they have a very strange way of trying to take encounters. They pick and choose between encounters and that they put on their website. The BFRO, they pick and choose things. and if it's the least bit aggressive, they won't post it or put it up. There, it's nice to have a big organization like that, but if you're being that picky, you're not helping the field any, in my opinion.
Okay. Anybody want to expand on that? All right, we'll move on to the next question. Miss Ice Bunny, go right ahead.
Okay, switching subjects. I've heard they throw rocks. What is the reason behind the rocks? Are they trying to scare people off? Are they trying to hurt them?
Well, it depends on how they choose to throw the rock. Most of the time, they'll pick rocks and they'll give this big long arc to it that goes up and comes down, lands near you. You know, it might be 6 inches from you, but they meant to do it. But if they hit you with rocks like they've hit me with rocks, they're trying to get you to leave. They're telling you you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to leave. But most of the time they throw rocks, and they're not much bigger than a quarter most of the time. But if it's a big boulder the size of my big head, yeah, they're telling you better leave. I've had rocks that size thrown at me. I've had the little 57 gravels, river gravel thrown at me, and that typically they throw at you and they don't try to harm you. They're just trying to get you to leave by scaring you, and it's a scare tactic that they use.
That would be a good one for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Anybody want to expand on that one?
Yeah, I've
All
had
right.
large
Sure.
rocks thrown into water next to me. There's just no mistaking what threw those rocks.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a definite, it's time to go, because I was at a place where I would exit that trail and head back to the parking area and alongside a river. And they let me know in no uncertain terms it was time to go.
Okay. All right. Before we move on, we got some questions about some subjects that we've already asked. Thomas wants to know, what about the ones with light cameras that don't deter, and how do you deal with those type? And Barry, when you get done with that one, if sulfur is a deterrent, why is the experienced cases being where the smell is described as being a sulfur smell?
Well, on the first one, how should I answer that one? Icebox, repeat the first question again.
If the cameras and the lights don't work, how do you deal with
Okay.
them?
Okay. Well, at that point, if they're not paying attention and they're still coming around, I've had to go as far as making if you're military or you're police or something into that field, you know what a flashbang is. Everybody knows what a flashbang is. They've heard of them. I mean, I don't know how they work, but a flashbang is something that emits a loud sound and a flash of light, and you can make them to where they're non-lethal, just to where it puts out a sulfuric smell, because black powder has sulfur and stuff, and saltpeter and stuff like that in it. And I've used it on quite a few occasions to get a message across to them. And it's because sometimes they're hard-headed. And yeah, my wife thinks I'm hard-headed, but I'm not. I listen sometimes. But that's what you may have to do. You may have to go to the point of setting up a flashbang, going out in the backyard, as long as there's not houses behind you or whatever, and firing off using a firearm to send a message, but not shooting them. You're just shooting at a target to let them know that, there are firearms at this house. And if you keep coming around, then someone may shoot at you. And they're pretty smart, so they figure it out fairly quickly.
Okay.
But go ahead with the second one.
The second question, and I understand what he said. If you're using sulfur and it stinks, and we all know what sulfur smells like, but we also have heard stories of how stinking a Bigfoot can be. How does one smell deter from the other? I think that's what he's getting at.
Well, most of the time, Bigfoot doesn't. When the stench they put off, people describe it as a sulfur smell, and it may smell like sulfur to them, but it's actually their body odor. And there's a pheromone, well, not a pheromone, but there may be, I don't know if it's an oil they secrete or it's something else that their body gives off. Because if you scare one, you typically will smell it. It's letting you know that it doesn't want you around. And a lot of times they'll do that, and it'll be a close. It may smell sulfuric to you, but it's not sulfur to them because they don't. It's kind of hard to consume sulfur. It's very detrimental to a body.
Okay. We had some comments. Carmela, I believe some people will probably be asking that same question, so we will get to that. Please be patient. If it don't, I will bring it up myself. But I got that circled, so we'll see if the panel has a question concerning that. We'll get to another one here in a minute, Danny. But right now, let's go ahead and go to our panel. Miss Ice Bunny, do you have a question?
Yes. Changing the subject again. I'm getting good at it. Structures. What are they for? Do they stay in them, or is it to mark their territory?
Okay, I will ask you this. Please clarify what you mean by structures.
Teepee sort of looking structures.
Okay. The teepee type where they stack a bunch of trees that have been broken off. And that's the key point. If it's cut, it's not Bigfoot. They don't have saws. If the tree's broken off and it's standing against another one and there's a bunch of them placed around a big tree, it's typically somewhere where they'll go and lay down in the daytime, or they may go there at night and lay in there to take a rest, take a nap. I'm 56 years old and I need a nap once in a while.
I hear you.
So if it's that type of structure you're asking about, yes, it's used to benefit them. The other structures that are out there, like tree bows, tree twists, broken off trees that are pointing in a certain direction that may be in a line with the other one, with 5 or 6 more. That stuff tends to point towards a food source, water, or cover that they can use, that they feel safe going to. And that's one of the things that you have to determine what type of structure it is. If it's a tree bow, it's signaling this could be our property line, and we go down this way along the property line, and then you go down here and you turn right, and it's wherever the last tree bow is. You turn right or you turn left, and it takes you to food, water, or somewhere to get away from humans during the day or night.
Okay. Anybody want to expand? All right. We'll move on to Doug.
All right, kind of changing the going a different direction here real quick.
Mhm.
Like the gutway. I think that's how you say it, right? Are those the ones? The what?
Yes, that's correct
Are
pronunciation.
those ones with the fangs, right? Is that the class that y'all? I think class 3 or something like that. It's got the fangs. I'm not for sure. What I'm asking, do people that see that type of Bigfoot get it confused with what they call the dog man?
Well, I'm really glad that you asked that question. And in as far as the types go, I consider a Gugway a type 4.
Okay.
And here's the point about the Gugway. Their face sticks out. It's like you just take your fingers like that, put it on your face, and it poops out that far. And people have confused them with dogmen or werewolves, whatever they want to call it. It's happened. I've talked. I've been on investigations not only of my own, but with other people because they needed help. And you talk to the people, and they said, "No, that's this thing looked like a dog. It had it had a muzzle." Well, come to find out, it's got human looking feet that are 18, 20 inches long, and dogman doesn't have that. And but they get mistaken sometimes because of the way their face looks and because of that poof they have there at their mouth. And yes, they do have protruding fangs. Well, canines.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any expansions, guys?
Yes.
Natalie? Go ahead.
On which type of the Bigfoot are more aggressive? Like there's different types of them, correct?
Yeah, there's different types of them. When it comes to the most aggressive, and people are going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but if you go to the type ones, which are the ones that look more monkey-like, that look like monkeys, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangs, baboons, they're more aggressive towards humans because humans have shot at them for 200-300 years in this country with firearms. The Indians had to deal with them, and they used bow and arrows. But they're more aggressive towards humans. They'll try to run you off. They'll throw stuff at you. They may false charge you repeatedly to get you to leave. So along the lines of just pure aggression, type ones are the most aggressive. And the second ones that I would worry about when it comes to aggression will be a type 5, which is the Genoskwa. They eat their own kind, and they will eat us.
Okay. Anybody want to expand on it? All right. Let's see. Who asked that question? That was Ice Bunny. Doug, I believe you're up. Or was you the one that asked the last question?
I'll ask one before I ask.
It's Natalie's turn.
Natalie's turn. Good. I'm writing down other questions from the chat room so we don't forget. I'm sorry, Natalie. Go right ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, this is actually expanding on the last topic. And Bear, we might have talked about this before, but the different types, do you find or do you feel that they are like you find type 1s mostly in this part of the country, other types in other parts of the country, or is everybody everywhere?
Well, they're not everywhere. Type 1s are not everywhere. Type 1s tend to stay in the South, meaning the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, northern Florida. They don't go into southern Florida because of the skunk ape or swamp apes. They're a different type, and they are a little bit more. They kind of tend to predate upon the monkey type, and with type 1s. But you can find small bands of type 1s out in the West, Washington State, Oregon, California, Northern California. There are small bands of type 1s out there. Type 2s, they're pretty much anywhere they want to be. They tend to hang around water more than any other type does. Your grassman and the now infamous Yahoo of West Virginia are type 2s. But your type 3s, anywhere you go in the United States, you probably will run into a type 3. They're the ones that'll come around your house and look like us. And, you know, I suspect after being in this for investigating for 35 years and knowing about him for 40, that a few people have been accused of being a peeping Tom when it was an actual Bigfoot staring in somebody's window. Your type 4s and your type 5s, they're 1 to 1.5% of the population, I would guess, in in all the Bigfoot in North America. And they roam constantly. They don't sit down roots. So you can run into them anywhere.
Okay. Anybody want to expand? All right, then we'll go back to Miss Natalie. What's your other question?
How many people, when you're out squatching with a group, what would the minimum number of people be that you would want to have with you? Because I don't think this is something anybody should ever do alone. And when does a group get unwieldy?
Well, the minimal amount of people that I would want with me is one more. And naturally, it's going to be my wife. But I would never take her into somewhere where it would be a chance of any harm coming to her. Me, I don't care about. I've been hit with rocks. I've had trees pushed down on me. I've been ran out of the woods, and I don't mean walk. And it's hard on a fat guy to run, but I can run when I need to. But the minimal amount of people is one more. The most I would like to have in a group is 6 or 8. Last year when we were at Salt Fork, we had way too many. It should have been cut up into 3 groups and went 3 different places, but everybody wanted to go, and it's kind of hard to say no, but I hope to rectify that this year.
Okay. Anybody want to expand? All right. Before we move on, I'm going to answer. Have a couple of the chat room. Danny asked something, but I'm gonna save that toward the end of the show, Bear. And he just simply wants to know what's the funniest story you've heard of a Bigfoot. We'll wait on that. Yeah, I know. I see you over there, Miss Barbie Bear. I know what you're thinking of.
Never.
Okay, but here's a good question for you, Bear. These curious young ones, how curious are they compared to humans?
Well, when they're toddlers, they're just like any other. They're just as curious as a 2 or 3-year-old. I mean, they will walk off from their parents and get themselves in a hot water any chance they get, just like a human child does. So they're very, very curious when they're young because they don't have the mindset of fear. They don't know what fear is. And when they're little, they have no fear. They look to their parents. I mean, their parents are 7, 8, 9, 10 foot tall. There ain't much out there that's going to mess with them. And if there does, you know, the mother alone can tear a bear apart, rip a mountain lion apart. She has that kind of strength. And it's hard to understand why in the world would anything want to mess with one of those little ones as aggressive as the big males get. If an alpha male, you mess with its child, oh no. You poke a stick at the bear and that bear will rip you apart.
Okay. All right. Here's another one. Tree knocks, are they warnings or communication?
It is a form of communication between the Bigfoot, and it depends upon the clan. It's not a universal thing. 3 tree knocks might mean the clan needs to come, the beta males need to come to the alpha male because a war's about to start. It can mean everybody go back to, you know, their safe haven. It depends on the clan. The alpha male is the one that sets that up, and he drills it into their heads. If you see this, this is how many knocks you get. Or if there's humans in the woods, you might only get 1 knock, and they'll never knock again because you're there. They know that you can hear that, and if you hear it, pinpoint it, then you're going to try to go in and see this Bigfoot that's tree knocking. So it all depends on the clan mostly, and it depends on the alpha male because he's the big dog, and everybody better listen, or he's got a heavy hand in making you listen.
Okay. All right. We'll move on. Miss Ice Bunny, what's your question?
Being that these creatures are so elusive and they're really good at hiding, when they're seen during the day, are they meaning for you to see them, or is it just a mistake?
Well, there's 2 scenarios that you would have to go through to figure out if it's means for you to see it, or if it made a mistake and walked out in front of you. If you're somewhere in the woods and you're being very quiet, such as a bow hunter or a rifle hunter, you know, in rifle season, and you know, there's many different states that have rifle seasons for white-tailed deer. If you're in a hunting situation and a Bigfoot walks out in front of you, 9 times out of 10, he's going to know you're there because he walks into the wind. So that way it extends his ability to know what he's coming up on. And white-tailed deer walk with the wind to their back a lot of times. Now, they may walk across the wind or whatever, but a Bigfoot typically walks into the wind so he can catch a lot of scent before he gets to it. That way he knows if there's game there, stuff like that. So if a Bigfoot makes a mistake, it's a rare thing. And usually if a Bigfoot wants you to see it, it's going to let you see it. It's going to do it at a relatively close area, close to you. So if it's close to you when you walk up on it, or you think you're walking up on it and it's standing there looking right dead at you when you walk around that bend, it wanted you to see it. It's wanting you to leave the area. And that's what it's trying to put fear into you to make you run. But don't run.
Easier said than done.
Exactly.
Anybody want to expand on that question? right. We're gonna go with. I've got other questions, but I'm gonna shoot this one real quick to you, Bear. If Bigfoot is nocturnal, why are most seen at day or early evening? To expand on this.
Bigfoot is a mostly nocturnal creature in the sense that at night it can go out and hunt in peace and successfully complete a hunt to get whatever game it wants. Or it can go out and gather water, it can go out and gather forbs, grasses, whatever. And also it likes coming out at night because we centralize ourselves at night. We don't scatter out across the woods. There's usually the same as when you go Bigfooting. You know, there might be 4 or 5 of you, and Bigfoot wants to see what you're doing. So they're more active at night because it's easier on them to stay hidden. But a lot of times people see these creatures in the daytime or the early evening or early morning because these creatures are actually going back to where they can lay up during the day. And if, you know, and it's a common misnomer that Bigfoot is seen more today than it is at night. That's when most people are out during the day. But actually, most Bigfoot are seen crossing a road.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to expand?
So the ones that are seen during the day, would they not be like a sentry? I guess you would call them. Somebody that's watching. I guess that's what that would be.
Yeah, they're what most Bigfooters call the watchers, and that's what their job is they're the watch to see what, you know, if humans are getting close, or if there's a threat coming towards the clan. That's their job, is to watch and report what they see. And people have said they've heard knocks in the daytime. I've heard knocks in the daytime, and depending on the clan, it be 1 to 3 knocks. But if you got a multiple knocks going on, it's probably some teenager out there doing it. And but the watchers are the ones that do watch out for trouble, and to them we are trouble.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right, Doug, it is your turn for your question, sir.
I just asked. I just asked it.
Didn't know if you had a different subject or what.
Not this moment. I'll pass it to one of the ladies over there.
All right, then we'll pass on over to Miss Natalie.
Sure. How do you feel about gifting, Bear? Not food, never food, but objects, gifting.
Any type of gifting I have found causes trouble at some point. And here's why I say that, Natalie. If you are, say, my age, and I go out here on my job and I break my foot or I break my leg, and I'm incapacitated for 6 weeks because you can't get out and go climb the hills or go out in the woods and walk around without stumbling a lot or falling and re-injuring yourself and maybe re-breaking your leg or causing yourself some injury. Or I may get sick. And if I'm gifting to these creatures in a certain area, hold on a second.
Yeah.
But if you're gifting and you're giving them trinkets, marbles, stuff like that, and they expect it, and they've grown accustomed to having this, and they can take this stuff to the young girl, you know, the young teenage girls Bigfoots or teenage boy Bigfoots or even the little ones. And if they can take that stuff back to them and appease them and keep them from doing something that they shouldn't be doing, you know, making tons of noise or whatever, and you all of a sudden stop doing it, it tends to upset the creature. It may be, you know, one of the kids gets upset. You know how kids are. Oh, good Lord. Would you please stop? And that's what the parents do. They're like, and it upsets them now because now they got an unruly child that wants their little marbles, or they want the little army men, or whatever you've been sticking out there. And the next time you show up, it could be a month later, it could be 2 months, 3 months. Next time you show up and you start putting the stuff back out in the same place, they know you're there when you get out of your car because they smell you. Everybody has a different scent to them, and they know you're coming. They're probably going to be there, and they're going to be upset with you. So gifting to me is a big no matter what it is.
Okay. Anybody want to expand? All right. Go to Miss Ice Bunny.
Well, I am currently out of questions at the moment.
Okay. Doug, do you have any? All right. While y'all thinking about it, I'm going to
Couple.
thank you. All right. And that's another good question, Danny. Let me go ahead and get to these questions. I don't want to avoid any questioning at all, Little Bear. So I'm going to give you a questionable one. And all right, Stephen Hicks wants to know, do dogmen, are they seen only in the full moon? And someone else asked, do dogmen hang with Bigfoot? And another person wants to know, prospecting wants to know, what do whistles mean? While you are thinking about it, I'll be right back. Give me 5 minutes, guys, and I'll be right back. Okay.
Well, to answer the first question, no, dogmen are seen at any time. When I saw the 20 plus years ago, it was at a dark moon, so there was no moon at night. So people that have seen dogmen, they've seen them at all times of the moon phase. It's not just one certain moon phase that they're seeing. And yes, I have heard some people tell me that, and I've spoke to a few people that have seen dogmen with Bigfoot, according to them. I've never seen that. I've always seen, just a clan. And I've never seen dogmen around Bigfoot unless they're competing for an area. So I don't know anything about, and people have told me that, they think that the dogmen are used like we use hounds or German shepherds. They're kind of a warning for them, and they're also a form of an ability for them to better their hunting chances. Now, what was the third one?
Mm-hmm.
Whistles.
Whistles.
Whistling. Well, Bigfoot, they've never done this to me, but Bigfoot, juvenile males or beta males that are adults, they have been known to whistle at women. It's not a wolf whistle, but it's a whistle in the same. They may be telling a woman that she's pretty or whatever. It's but when they whistle, it's a form of communication for them. Whistles, certain duration of whistles mean certain things to them. But usually it's a locator. I'm over here, and that's what I've found over the years is a whistle. A single whistle is a locator to let the other Bigfoot in the area know that they are over, they're over at the creek getting water, or they're over there doing this. They're over here pulling up ginseng, or they're over here pulling up yellow root. They're doing their job, and they will whistle back and forth if they're in close proximity to each other. So that's what they whistle for. But male Bigfoot do whistle at women. I don't know about the women, the female Bigfoot. I've never had one whistle at me. So I can't answer for the females, but I do know males do whistle at women sometimes.
Okay. Uh, Someone asked, do Bigfoot or a dog man have any supernatural aspects?
I've never seen a Bigfoot have the supernatural aspect as being able to walk into portals, um, walk out of portals, shimmer and disappear. I've never had a Bigfoot disappear out of my sight unless it walks completely over a hill or it walks behind some obstruction I can't see them around. I have had them walk in behind trees and sneak right straight off from me and behind a tree. I've seen them walk around trees, trying to keep a tree between, somebody else that's with me walking out in front of me. I've seen them walk behind a tree to keep the tree between them and the person that is moving. I've used that many a times with some friends of mine that we used to go all the time, and they would walk 50 yards in front of me, and if there was Bigfoot in the area, you just kind of watch to your left and right, and if you see one, it'll move slowly around the tree to keep the tree between them and the person moving. Then you move, and now they're caught. Now that they move around the tree the other way because the other person has stopped moving and got out of their sight. So yeah, I've never seen a Bigfoot just up and disappear.
Okay. All right. Last one from the chat room. Wants to know your opinion on the chauffeur that Kubo claims to use to summon up Nephilims. What's your opinion?
Well, for years, I could never figure out where these creatures came from. I didn't know if they were some hominid related to us that were in according to science, the evolution of mankind. But I kind of got away from that once I started going to church and reading the Bible and reading other texts um, from early times and reading all the information I could find, concerning God. To me, they are an Nephilim because of the descriptions that were given of Goliath, his brothers, his other family members. If you would have taken Goliath and kicked him out of society, after a period of time, he would have been hair covered because he was pretty hairy then when David slew him on the battlefield. And so I believe that they are a Nephilim. They're ancestrally were in society. Hence, they can understand our languages. It just takes them a little time and they figure it out.
Okay. All right. We're going to do one more roundtable, and we'll probably bring it to a close here in just a minute. Has anyone ever communicated with a Bigfoot that you know of?
I've heard people say that they can mind speak with them or they've spoken to them and the Bigfoot seem to understand. When it comes to mind speak, I'm not of that camp. I don't say that it can't be done, but I say it's highly unlikely to happen. But as far as someone speaking to one, people have invoked the name of Jesus and they've left. People have, yelled at these things and they just turn and walk off like, well, whoever you think you are. And that's the attitude that they may give you. So I do believe they can understand the human languages, whether it's Russian, German, Gaelic, whatever. American English, French. So all those languages, I think they have learned the languages over time. So they can understand us to an extent. And the Sierra Sounds were super analyzed for a long period of time, and they said that there were 7 different languages in there, including Native North American Indian, and every tribe here in the United States had a different dialect. So I think they learned our words and they use them to communicate, but they use them at such a speed that we don't hear it.
Okay. All right. While we're on that subject, you've already touched a little bit on mind speak. Any more about mind speak or telepathy?
Like I said, when it comes to mind speak, I've been close to them as 10 feet out to 40, 50 yards. I've never had one mind speak to me, tell me I need to leave or I need to do this. It's always been me. It's never been one of these creatures telling me I have to leave or I don't want you here. I've never had one of them speak to me in that form.
Okay. All right. Here's your comical question: would Dogman chase squeaky toys? Never mind.
You would need, but if you got a dog man to chase a squeaky toy, I want video and pictures.
Yes.
It's just not me.
All right. Let's go around the table one more time. Miss Natalie, you got any other questions, please?
This might not be the best time, but before we hear Bear's funniest story, would you be willing to share one of your more frightening stories?
The most frightening thing that ever happened to me is when I got a tree pushed down on me. I was here in West Virginia, and I was investigating an area because we had went bow hunting in that area that morning, me, my younger brother, and our nephew. And we went in there before daylight. The oldest deer track that any of us found, the freshest deer track was 3 weeks old. And you can age a track pretty easily once, there's not much left of a deer track at that point. And it didn't hurt nothing that it had been 3 weeks since it rained last. And that kind of told us there, that it was a 3-week-old track. Found one bear print. Well, it wasn't just one. It was 4 or 5 tracks in a row of a bear that's probably 300 pounds plus. And it was 3 weeks old. Found a partial Bigfoot print. And I said something to my younger brother and my nephew about it. Yeah, I found a real strange print. And they tried to tell me it was a bear print, and that there's no way that this was a bear print. That bear would have had to been 800 pounds but it was only a few days old. And from seeing that, I went back there that evening because we left about 11 o'clock and we came home because we didn't see anything. And we came home and I told my wife at the time, I'm going to go out and do some hunting. And she's like, what hunting? I said, you don't need to know. She said, oh, that kind. And I left and I went back. And it was an hour and 45-minute drive to get back there. And I walked in and it started getting dark and I heard a scream. The typical scream of a Yahoo. And then I heard another one, which was probably no more than 100 yards away. Then I heard a third one, which was probably less than 40 yards away. At that point, I figured they were trying to triangulate me. And I did not want to be surrounded by these creatures, so I started retreating towards my truck. And within sight of my truck, there was a mud hole that was probably about 15 foot long, probably 10 foot wide, and about 3 foot deep. I walked up on the bank to get around the mud hole. And that was when the tree was pushed on top of me. I ended up being knocked off the side of the road into the mud hole. I looked like I was covered in pretty much red clay, soaking wet. And I took the hint, and after coughing up a little bit of nasty water, I said, all right, I get the hint, I'm leaving. And I walked out, and when I got in the truck, now it was cold outside, but I got the truck started, turned the heaters on wide open, and drove home. And when I got near the interstate, I had to pull offside the road because the fear kicked in big time. I couldn't stop shaking. I was shaking so violently that, and it wasn't because I was cold, because all the water, the water that was on the clothing that I had pretty much gone away. The mud had dried on the outside of my clothing, so I was pretty warm. But yeah, the delayed fear reaction kicked in really bad then, and I had to pull aside the road and sat there for probably 45 minutes on the side of an interstate.
Okay. All right. We'll move on and go on to Miss Ice Bunny. You got another question?
No, sir, I don't.
Still drawing. All right. Doug, have you got a last question?
Well, this may be another subject for another time, but you know the missing folks from the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina. Do you, and like that young boy that got supposedly said in the middle of the winter time that he was with a mama bear, which we know that hibernate. Do you think that Bigfoot mimics the voice of humans to attract children into the woods, or women, or like somebody getting hurt or something like that, that will attract folks to go into the woods to look to see if something's wrong, to abduct them?
Yes. To answer your question simply, yes. There's no bear out at the time that little boy that disappeared there in North Carolina. When he disappeared for 2 days, and it rained constantly for 2 days, and the boy didn't die from exposure. There was no bear out that's going to take care of him or let him lay beside it for that length of time. And these creatures have been known to sound like a baby crying to get someone to come in the woods. And usually they try to sucker women into the woods with a baby cry sound. And I think that if they can, as smart as they are, they can master the English language enough to get someone to come in, or they can call someone's dog, by name. If you name your dog Rufus, I'm pretty sure they can probably say that. So, yes, I think Bigfoot has enough mastery and enough vocal cords to mimic the English language here in the United States and across the world. I believe they can do it wherever they exist.
Okay. Anybody want to expand? Doug?
I'm good.
Natalie?
Tapped out.
You good? All right. Time for the funniest story. You got to give it to us before we get out of here, old bear.
All right, I'm gonna try to make it through this one.
Mhm.
A gentleman I used to work with contacted me yesterday, and I spoke to him again today. And he was at Salt Fork last August when we were there at Salt Fork.
Be back.
And what happened was he was out with his brother-in-law and a sister or sister-in-law. I don't know if it was his sister or his wife's sister. And him and his wife were on a pontoon boat out on the lake, on the backside of the lake. And they were fishing. And the brother-in-law and sister were out riding sea-doos. Something happened to the motor. He's got like a small outboard motor on the pontoon because he can't use the big motors that he originally had there at Salt Fork. I guess there's a limitation in some parts of the lake. And I think he broke a spark plug. It wouldn't start, and he took the spark plug out and broke it. And, well, the wife got on a sea-doo with the brother-in-law and the sister, and they were riding two separate ones. And they went back to the dock, and she was supposed to go get him a new spark plug, and they were supposed to bring it back. Well, it started getting dark on him, and his he heard sound effects person. Come here a minute, would you please? Y'all got to hear this. He heard a sound that doves make, a cooing sound. So my better half is going to attempt to do the cooing sound. You'll have to move a little bit closer.
Mm-hmm.
He heard this sound. And at that point, he started looking around to see what was making that sound. And right at the edge of dark, he heard something coming off the hill. Now, this creature continuously made the cooing sound. And it came down and entered the lake. And it turned and walked right straight towards his pontoon boat. Now, according to him, it was clearly a female. And to make sure that you understand that it was definitely a female, I will tell you what he said. He said Dolly Parton had nothing on this Bigfoot. So at that point, it walks up to the side of the pontoon boat, and he has retreated to the front of the boat to get away from this creature. He does not have a firearm. He does not carry one. All he's got is some fishing rods. And the thing is standing there. Now he turned all the lights on when this thing started coming down the lake towards him. And he said the Bigfoot was looking through the rails at him, kind of like had a loving look on her face. And she was making the sound, and then she raised one of her breasts up and shook it at him. I guess she was offering something that he didn't want no part of. And he was he was worried that he was going to be taken advantage of. And he had a flashlight that he had picked up, one of those. You remember the flashlights that security guards used to carry that held 6 or 8 batteries, D-cell batteries in them? And he's shining this thing in its face, and he's shaking so bad that the light is going back and forth across its face. And it's just standing there looking at him like, "Come here, big boy," and shaking a breast at him. At this point, he hears a boat motor, and he recognizes the motor to be his uncle's. They were camping at Salt Fork and using the lake. His uncle was there, the sister and the brother-in-law, and him and his wife. They were all 3 staying in separate campers. The uncle brought the wife and the brother-in-law back up there in his boat, and he heard the boat motor. He recognized it. He turned around and started shining his light, back and forth, trying to get them to hurry up. And finally, this creature, I guess, evidently she noticed the boat or heard it, and started up the bank and got up on the bank and was in the light. He has 2 spotlights, one on the starboard side and one on the port side of the boat. And it bent over and did its best impression of twerking. And at this point, the uncle and the brother-in-law and his wife all saw the creature standing there twerking. And he starts screaming at them, "Help."
I guess so.
And the creature stands up, turns at her waist, looks down at him, coos at him a couple more times, and walks up the bank away from him. So, yes, that is the funniest one I have ever heard in my entire life.
That was hilarious.
And it begs the question, how many times has that Bigfoot seen women out on Salt Fork on the beach, or, young women out there at little impromptu beer parties or whatever party, and women have been dancing in that form for her to learn how to do it?
So where's this beach at?
Well, all I can tell you, Icebox, is come the spring, somebody has already bought a 5-gallon bucket of a certain cologne, and we're dousing you in it.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Mm-mm. No. All right, that's a good story. I love that story. He told me that story last night. That was great. That was great. All right, guys, it's been a great show tonight. We're going to get off of here, and but I want to first thank the panel that come on tonight. We really do appreciate you guys being here, and we thank y'all, Miss Natalie, Ice Bunny, and Doug. We also want to thank the chat room. Y'all have been great tonight, asking really good questions, and we have thoroughly enjoyed it. Anybody else got anything else to say? Doug, Natalie, Ice Bunny?
No, sir.
All right. All right. Oh, Bear, it's your show.
All I have to say is I thank you all for coming. Icebox for moderating. Natalie, you, as always, you're a pleasure to see and speak to, and you always have good questions. And
thank you for having me.
I'm just glad you came, because without you on here, it would have been a different show. I'm glad you came.
Thank you.
And Miss Ice Bunny, I thank you for coming. I know that you were a little hesitant about coming, but
You know,
but as always, it is a pleasure of mine to see you and to get to talk to you. And don't worry, we'll try to make sure if this spring that we'll see if we can find the little ones and you can see the little ones and not the big ugly ones.
little
And
ones would
Doug,
be super.
Doug,
It was fun.
yeah, I thank you personally for coming. Such a short notice, and it has been a pleasure to meet you. And I'm
Yes,
glad I got to speak to you.
yes. Nice to meet you too, Natalie. Nice to meet you, Miss Icebox Bunny. Nice talking to you again without getting killed. Long story there. But it's a pleasure to be on here with you guys. I'll be honest with you, I was a little nervous and hesitant, and hopefully I did add to it, not take away from it.
You added. We appreciate it.
Good deal.
All right.
Nice
Oh, Bear, if you don't.
Natalie. Hope to meet you up at Salt Fork sometime.
Yeah, I can't make April, but I'm been
Okay.
sitting here trying to think how I can work that in, even for just a night. But
Yes, please, if
I
you
might
can.
try.
We'd love to see you.
Yeah, I'd
Yep.
love to make it. I'm not home most of May, but I might try to get out there that weekend.
May has got nothing to do with April. Try to slide one in on me. I know what you did. All right, Barry, if you don't care, go ahead and take us out. Guys, y'all have a good night. Until next time, y'all catch old Bear on this show. Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot. Go ahead and take us out,
Can
buddy.
I say something?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yes,
No.
I can.
Coo.
Long as
Go
you're
ahead,
not
Miss Barbara.
in.
Now, I want to thank everybody for the birthday wishes. I love you guys.
We love you
Make
too.
my day.
Happy
Did he
birthday.
give you that birthday hug I told him to give you?
No, not yet. I was kind of saving that to go with the cake.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Nice to see you, Doug.
Y'all have a good night.
Good night, y'all. Happy birthday,
Good night.
Barbie.
Good night.
All right, guys. I'm
Love
gonna
Good night.
put y'all backstage and then I'll finish the show up.
All right. Thank you, bud.
All right, bye. Well, everybody, that will conclude tonight's show, and I hope you had fun doing it, sitting back and watching and getting questions answered. And like my wife said, I want to thank you all for the birthday wishes to my wife. It means a lot to her. We have so many friends that are here, and we're blessed by y'all being here. And it's been a fun show tonight. And I thank you all. And may God bless each and every one of you each and every day of your lives. And if you got a chance, take off and go to church on Sunday. We'll see y'all later. Bye bye.